If you are monitoring the scales to measure your fat loss progress, you need to watch this. And no, don't worry, this isn't going to be another video saying ditch the scales forever, because the chances are if you're watching this, you both want and need to lose weight to improve your health, fitness and body. But this video is how to do it in the most effective way possible so that you don't hate the process, feel deflated and feel like a failure. So here it is. If you are currently using the scales to monitor your fat loss progress, you need to collect more data than just one metric once per week. The reason this is important is that if you only have one metric once per week that you look at, that only gives you one opportunity to succeed or fail. And if that one weigh-in doesn't go how you want it to, how deflating is that going to be? I've had clients that have done everything absolutely perfectly all week, but we've got this one thing wrong in the past and only measured once per week. And they may have gone out the day before and had like a more carbohydrate heavy meal, which means you'll store more water, and they are just literally half a kilo heavier and they think all of their fat loss progress has been ruined. And that has a massive mental knock-on effect to their behaviours afterwards. But the problem with that was not that they actually did anything wrong. They had stuck to their calories, they were absolutely spot on with that all week. But the problem was that they only measured one thing at one time and then felt deflated afterwards, which meant they didn't want to carry on doing the work, even though they were actually on track. They just didn't know it. So when you do it once per week, that gives you one opportunity to succeed or fail. I heard this really nice quote, I've forgotten who said it. Have no single point of success or failure. i.e., don't put all your eggs in one basket. Because if all your eggs are in one basket, what happens when that basket breaks? It leaves you feeling like shit. So you actually need to collect more data to feel calm and rational about things, because it gives you such a more well-rounded view of your progress as a whole when you look at multiple things. And that's going to allow you to stay more rational, you to stay more logical, which is so important when it comes to actually making the right decisions within your health and fitness journey. And it's also going to allow you to identify exactly where you're going wrong. Just think about this. If you only weigh once per week, you're basically looking at and trying to troubleshoot a whole 7 days. Whereas if you actually weigh twice per week or 3 times per week, I'll go on to solutions now, you can actually pinpoint, oh, okay, it's changed there. So what happened within that shorter space of time? And it makes it so much more easy for you to problem solve and troubleshoot what's going on. So what's the best way to do this then? The first thing, I have to talk about whether or not weight is the actual thing you need to lose. The simple answer to this is, are you overweight? i.e., is your BMI in the overweight or obese category? If it is, then you will benefit from losing body weight. The only exception to this is if you have exceptional muscle mass and very little relative body fat to that. But those circumstances are few and far between. So that's the first thing. Do you actually have a weight problem? i.e., are you overweight or not? Because if you don't have an overweight problem and you're not actually overweight and your BMI is in the healthy range, you don't actually need to lose weight in itself. You need to change your body composition, but that's something I'll cover in another video. And another really important thing to understand is that weight is a range. It is not one solid figure. So if you weighed 100 kilos, that is not your weight maintenance. Weight maintenance is actually fluctuating within a range of up to about 1 to 3 pounds daily. Because think about it, when you have water, when you go to the loo, when you eat a meal, your weight is going to fluctuate daily because of those things. But it does not mean body fat. So that's really important to understand, that it is a range. What we're going to see over time if you're monitoring scale weight is you're going to see it fluctuate like this, which is incredibly normal. That's the shape you want to be seeing. It's not going to go like that in a straight line. So first things first, let's take the actual weight measurement itself. What's the problem? Most people weigh once per week. So what's the solution? Weigh yourself multiple times per week. 2, 3, even daily. Depending on your mindset, if you get really obsessive around things, don't feel that you have to do that. But it can be useful to really rationalize and see that your weight is going to fluctuate daily. And that's incredibly normal. That's a normal body response. But something that works really well with my clients is weighing twice per week. And the way I would suggest doing that is weighing on a Tuesday and a Friday. This is very context dependent, but for most people, they typically consume a little bit more indulgent food. They might have a meal out, they might have a drink or something on the weekend. The likelihood is if you go and weigh first thing on a Monday morning, you're probably going to weigh in heavier. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you've gone over on calories or that it's body fat. It could just be the water retention. Every gram of carbohydrate that you have in your body, you're going to store with it 3 grams worth of water, which is obviously going to have a big impact on your weight. And if you have more carbs on the weekend, if you have a meal out, it's likely you're going to weigh heavier. Salt intake as well will make you retain more water. So typically you're going to weigh heavier on a Monday. So that's why I'd say leave it until Tuesday, because if you haven't gone over on calories, it will have evened out by then. But if it hasn't evened out, you know you've probably overdone it on the calories on the weekend. So weigh multiple times per week, and ideally you want it to be the same conditions. First thing in the morning is the most accurate, empty stomach, empty bladder, not having food or water on board, because that gives you more data to troubleshoot. And instead of looking at, oh, okay, what happened in this whole week? And that's such a big time point to actually pinpoint things. If you're doing it twice or 3 times a week, you're only then looking at a few days at a time. And I don't know about you, but I can't remember what I ate for breakfast yesterday, let alone trying to think, what did I eat a week ago? The benefit of this is that it puts so much less pressure on that one weigh-in. So you're far less likely to feel deflated if it goes up slightly, because you understand that's a very normal response with your body. But over time, we want to see it trending down, not going down in a straight line. And it's so nice when all of your hopes and dreams are not dependent on one weigh-in. It's just ridiculous. But secondly, we need to actually have more metrics than just weight itself. If you look at scale weight on its own, you are blind to all of the other areas of progress that you are making that are actually really important to how you look, feel, and perform. So things like progress pictures, measurements. I use waistline a lot with my clients. How clothes are fitting, your performance in the gym. All of these things are actually really objective and easy to measure. And very often, I've had weeks with clients where their weight does not move at all, but they've lost an inch off their waist. And then the next week, their waist stays exactly the same, but they've lost a kilo. That really does happen a lot. And if you aren't measuring those things, then you're completely blind to it. So it gives you a much more well-rounded view of things. But you also want to have some more subjective measurements as well. So things like energy levels, mood, just how you're feeling in general. And that's why checking in with yourself and self-reflecting is so important, and is a big part of the work that I do with people, and, you know, in my journey, actually getting myself in shape and staying in shape consistently, and then progressing on that over years. You need to optimize for feeling good, because when you do that, that's how you can stick to things long term. So you need to make sure you're having more than just scale weight as a measure. You want to look at these other things. You want to look at waist measurements. You want to have progress pictures. And just going back to what I said before, is that if you're not overweight, progress pictures, performance in the gym, and measurements of specific body parts are going to be much better for you, because it's actually your body composition that you need to change by building muscle and losing body fat. And you can't see those things on a scale. So when you add all of these things together, it gives you such a more well-rounded view, and it's going to allow you to stay much more logical, much more rational, and then you're going to make much better decisions long term, which is going to help you stay in shape for life. Now, staying rational and logical is obviously so much easier when you have a coach, because they aren't involved in the day-to-day life and the stresses and things that you have going on. So that is why having external support is so useful. But it is still possible for you to do this on your own. It's just harder. So the take-home message now is that if you are currently measuring your progress on the scales, do not only do that once per week, because you are setting yourself up for success or failure. If you do that, you are always going to be inconsistent, because if you succeed, you're going to feel super happy. And if you don't get what you want, you're going to feel like you failed and feel really deflated. And that is not going to set you up for consistency long term. Having more emotional stability and actually looking at things more logically and rationally, that is the thing that's going to allow you to stay in shape long term. The more data you collect and the more metrics you have, the more well-rounded view of your progress you're going to have, and you're going to enjoy the process so much more, as well as get better, more consistent results. So I hope you found this useful. Please go ahead and make sure that you are adding in other metrics and you're getting more data to actually look at. And you're also listening to how you feel on the journey as well. Because if you're doing all of this, but you feel like shit, then what is the point in doing it? If we're trying to be in shape for the rest of our life and continue to progress on it, we are only going to do that if it feels good, because you cannot grow into pain. But yeah, I hope you found that useful. And if you did, I actually have a free guide that I've made called How to Get Your Shit Together and Stay in Shape for Life. The link is in the description, or if you go to www.leadfromthefront.co.uk, just put your name and email in on there and I will email it straight over to you. But that covers a load of things such as training, nutrition, effective weekly planning, learning, self-reflection, and also the main reason that your current approach isn't working for you and never will. So feel free to go and grab that if you found this video useful, and I'll see you in the next video.